Aloha, folks, and welcome to another campaign update. My name is Feena Bonoan, and I am your host for today. I also have with me my co-host, the wonderful, the undeniably original Mike Scott from Maryland, US Senate candidate. I'm a US Senate candidate as well. And today we've got a great show for you today, folks. We are going to discuss the border. And today we have the Libertarian Presidential candidate, Miss Oliver, coming to us live. We also have Ryan Woodcraft from El Paso, Texas, coming to us live. And I really think this is going to be a good episode because we're going to be talking about the border. And so we have someone that is going to running to kind of lead the charge of America in the border crisis. And we also have someone that's running on the local level, right at ground zero in El Paso. So before we get to them, we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on in the border crisis. And I have a few things to share with you. First thing I would like to share with you is from an article that I found yesterday, right? And it's from the American Immigration Council. And one of the quotes I have from them is, and it's great, it's right on point. It is, so the article is about why don't immigrants apply for citizenships? And the author cites the diversity program is barely functioning at the present time, due to the continued impact of immigration bans implemented by the Trump administration and extremely slow processing by the Biden administration. So this article talks about there's no line available for the vast majority of undocumented immigrants. Many undocumented immigrants are barred from obtaining legal status while inside the U.S. So once they get here, they can't just they can't decide if they want to stay. Family-based immigration is limited to only close family, as in your immediate family, your spouse, your parents, and your siblings. And employment-based immigration requires a U.S. employer to request specific foreign workers. So they have to actually, your employer has to put in the work first. And then asylum is not exactly the most robust situation. And even those that are in line have long backlogs. So if you didn't know, immigration is a 12-step process. And but before we get into more, we're going to talk more about immigration, but I've got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. For my campaign, we got new shirts. We got shirts in this weekend. We did a rush order on them, and they look great, folks. They are good quality shirts, and I do have some available. I sold my first one this weekend out at the parade in Seminole County. Shout out to the pastor of First Baptist Church in Geneva, Florida. Thank you for your contribution, and thank you for donating to my campaign. He told me that I was the first candidate he'd ever donated to, so I'm excited about that. And then also, I'm going to start a little segment in here for Liberty on the Road. Okay, so this weekend, we went to Gatorland, held some snakes, held some gators, talked to friends, made new friends, handed out some business cards, and rolled in deep with my new campaign shirts. There's some pictures from the parade. Now, there's a lady in the front with a white tank top on. She came up to our table, and she is a libertarian. She's joining the party, and so I'm really happy to meet folks that they're looking for that alternative option to the R's and the D's. Here's another family that came up and was like, yeah, we're libertarian, getting all that good propaganda. Then after the Seminole County, by the way, Seminole County, shout out to John and Susan for hosting me out there. What a wonderful family they are. They've got a daughter that's in a jazz band and plays for Universal Studios. They're very into the arts, as I am, as you folks may know. So after the Seminole parade, we went out to the Nathan Slusher campaign rally that, well, it wasn't a campaign rally. It was the 4th of July fireworks, but he did buy a table out there and said I could put some signs up. So I did. I also handed out lots of propaganda. Now, this lady right here in particular, she wasn't going to take my propaganda until I told her, it's okay, folks. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat. And she's like, yeah, give me that. Here's another family that are looking for that third party options. And memes of the week, another little segment. We've got this one from Mike Scott, Democrat, Republican, not dumb enough to fall for it anymore. And then mine is voting third party is wasting your vote. Does it decrease the chances of your candidate winning? Yes. Then it wasn't a waste, was it? But
how are you today? How are you?
I'm good.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the show. I'm really excited about today's show. I like Chase Oliver's platform. I liked it from the first time I saw it, and I'm kind of excited about seeing it. I have been told, by the way, by my friend Chris Villarreal down in Katy, Texas, that I am not allowed to have an opinion on immigration till I bring my quote unquote ass down to the border and take a look for myself to see what's going on. And I said that is fair. However, I can show some of my concerns with immigration. One of my concerns with immigration is our destabilizing foreign policy, our war on drugs, our war on terror, our interference in Ukraine, our interference in the Middle East. It turns out when you bomb people, their kids may not like you and may want to do you harm, so we need to watch who's coming into our borders. But that's not a problem with immigrants. That's a problem with foreign policies and failing policies. We also have, there you go, right there. That was something that shocked me. It's not exactly immigrants that are the problem. It's our welfare state handing them money, and everybody's going to blame the immigrants for that. And I don't really blame the immigrants for that. I blame the welfare state because they're getting subsistence living. That money is actually being transferred to landowners, banks, and other things, just like in welfare. Those people aren't storing money and getting rich. They're living barely a subsistence life. And I keep looking at it. You know, you hear all the numbers about folks coming across the border, but I'm looking at the population in the U.S. from 1990 to 2022. And I mean, it's a lot of people, but it doesn't seem like we're getting 3 million people a month or whatever the crazy things I've heard are. And about 20%, 22% of the immigrants, foreign-born folks, are unauthorized illegal aliens. I do not have an official opinion about immigration till I quote unquote take my ass down to the border and see what's going on for myself. But it seems to me that the problems with immigration aren't necessarily immigrants who are coming here to work, fill jobs, and make a better life for themselves. It's our failed policies for welfare, drugs, and war. But well, that's just my opinion. I don't know anything yet. This weekend was fun. 4th of July celebration, watched some fireworks, went to the Senegalese festival in Silver Spring. I'm having a lot of fun, meeting a lot of people, but it's still rough out there, beating out the duopoly, getting your name out. I'm getting recognized more, but it's still slow going. I'm hoping it turns around a lot before November. So that's my update, and that's my thoughts on immigration. And how the heck was your weekend? Like, did you have fun doing all that running around? It seemed like you were busy as hell.
I was busy and I had a blast. So I know it maybe seem odd, but my strong spot is not necessarily graphics, video, and in dark rooms creating content. I'm good at that too. But after years of waiting tables and, you know, working in the military sector and doing community relations projects and talking with folks, my strong suit is getting out with the people and talking to them and meeting them right where they are. And I think that's a great segue into a Chase Oliver commercial before we bring him on.
The record number of Americans favor a new political party.
57% of Americans still believe a third major political party is necessary.
Voting third party is a wasted vote? Bullshit. This is the establishment's most successful lie in modern politics. America is the only major country with free elections to only have 2 viable options. Not anymore. The Libertarian Party is the fastest growing political party in America and will be on the ballot in all 50 states. And when we talk about winning, we don't just mean winning the White House. There's all kinds of wins you can have in your state if you vote Libertarian today. We can win ballot access that makes it easier for future candidates to run for office. We can win major party status that gives us more attention from the major media.
I think it's a great day to be a Libertarian.
And we could have Libertarians getting elected all over the country in local races. Whenever Libertarian candidates are able to break through the mainstream media blackout, our support grows. In my televised debate with Senator Raphael Warnock, I was able to reach out to millions of voters. Many of them realized that they were Libertarian all along and just didn't know it. Why is that the radical idea, not the rational idea? If you live in a solid blue or a solid red state, voting for Trump or Biden is a wasted vote, and it won't change the outcome. Voting Libertarian is the only way to make your vote truly count. Currently, all the 2 major parties have to do is be slightly less evil than the other side to win. Let's make the statement that we will accept no evil. When someone tells you you're wasting your vote, recognize that they don't care about you. It's a selfish statement. They are saying that your beliefs aren't worth being represented, that you should silence your voice so theirs can be louder. Vote your conscience, not someone else's politics. Breaking up the duopoly is the only chance for the real radical change needed to give the power back to you, the people. Voting for Chase Oliver for president will contribute to bringing more choices into our political system. A successful third party forces the 2 old parties to think about the issues Americans truly care about. Keep them honest. Show them they must earn your vote. Change begins at the grassroots. I'm Chase Oliver, a candidate for president, and I approve this message.
All right, without further ado, the Libertarian presidential candidate, the only presidential candidate that's going to be on your ballot that's under 70, we have none other than Chase Oliver.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Chase.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I'm having a great day here, and love life here in Atlanta, Georgia.
So you're in Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in Atlanta today, but I'm flying out to Las Vegas tomorrow for Freedom Fest, where I'm going to be hosting some panels, stuff there, having a breakout room, as well as participating in the free and equal debates on the 12th. It'll be a great time. Me, Jill Stein, Randall Terry of the Constitution Party are confirmed to be there. Now, RFK was invited to speak, but he doesn't want to be on the debate stage. He's going to speak beforehand on a debates on his own stage.
So,
Stage.
Chase, I gotta say something. And I'm gonna say the obvious right now. That's a bitch move. Let me say why. Okay,
You can say it for me.
yeah, I can say it. Yeah. He came to our convention, and okay, so no, he started in Pork Fest. He wasn't going to debate anybody in Pork Fest a year ago. Then he came to our convention after he said he didn't want our nomination and didn't want to debate anyone. And he's not debating anyone. Is he afraid of what we're going to say? Or is he afraid we're going to make him look bad? Or we're going to make him look as old as the Republicans and Democrats that are running that are over 70 as well?
You know, personally, I think he's just only comfortable debating men who are near the age of 80 whose mental faculties are leaving them. And I feel like he has to lower his handicap to that record. I feel like I can debate a Jill Stein or a Randall Terry, and certainly an RFK in a debate stage. And I think we all, after seeing Trump versus Biden, know that any of us can debate Trump or Biden pretty, because they're like the lowest quality candidates that have been brought to us by the Republicans and Democrats in some time. So I don't know really what the deal is there, but the truth is I'm ready to get on any debate stage, anytime, anywhere, with any of the candidates who are running for president, because out there, got to put our principles out there. And if we're not doing that, we're not doing the job of being a candidate. I feel like if you want to be a candidate, you go on. And I think RFK is fooling himself if he thinks, well, I just can't go on this stage because it'll make me look too small. I won't get invited on the big guy stage if I go to this stage. Here's the news alert for you, RFK, and all your supporters. You're not going to get on the big stage either unless, you know, you actually get your name out there and you get support growing. And the way you do that is by putting your name out there. So I wish that, stage. Let's see who's the more libertarian candidate.
So I think what part of it too, what it looks like from my perspective, yeah, it's a bitch move, but you know what else it is? It looks like a pay to play. It looks like we're rich and we can buy these polls to make sure that they put us in them, and it reeks of privilege.
Well, he is a Democrat, so there is that. He is a Kennedy as well. So I always do tell people, if you want to vote outside the establishment, don't vote for a Kennedy. Rule number one. But, let's getting beyond that. I just got back from an awesome weekend of campaigning. You guys just gave yourselves a little plug there. I think we did a great time too this past week, though it was hot as can be in Philadelphia. I wasn't expecting it to be that warm. They say it's hot Atlanta, but the last 2 weeks I've been in Houston and Philadelphia, and they're about the warmest places I've been lately.
Do you want to go through the pictures? We definitely have pictures of you this weekend.
Oh, Lord, yeah. Well, I will say I apologize for the heat doing what it does to my hair in some of these pictures.
Okay.
It was very warm. But I don't think you're going to see Joe Biden or Donald Trump walk while parade path. When's the last time either of them have walked more than 500 feet without a golf cart?
Without falling. Without falling. So I'm going to put your little banner on here. I do want to, before I go to your commercials, I'm going to go ahead and play the Freedom Fest commercial. And then we'll go through your pictures, and then we're going to start talking about immigration. Okay.
Absolutely.
Listen, it's not going amazing. Government shutdown, split Congress, great divide.
What's going on? I can't see it.
Too polarized, big majorities don't want either one of them running.
Overwhelming number of voters want to see.
Yeah, we can't see it, Feena.
Independent candidates on stage.
My bad.
It's okay.
Is that better?
We can see your entire
screen. Well, this is why, folks, I asked for videos so I can upload them.
The people are not being represented.
We always complain about the two-party system, but there's no way to beat it.
So does a third-party candidate have a shot at the White House?
While we're waiting on that, I did have a question for you, or two. But are we gonna skip to a commercial till we can get this stuff done, and then?
Was it not playing?
It was not playing well. I could barely hear it, and it's
it sounds like it's coming out of your laptop speaker, not out of the.
Well, that's a great example of why we need real commercials in real time. But we'll go back. We'll go to a real commercial then. Let's go.
I'm honored to be the first Libertarian candidate for president to ever campaign in all 50 states, and I did it before our nomination. This kind of energy sends a clear signal to the old two-party system that we are a 50-state party, and this is a 50-state campaign. Voters deserve a president who doesn't merely focus on a handful of swing states, and the Libertarians will be on the ballot for those voters who want to reject the two-party mediocrity and embrace building a foundation that will last for years to come.
All right. So, Chase. Yes, we got some comments. We got Ryan Woodcraft's coming on soon. But let's go ahead and get your solo layout, sir. So I really want you to break down your Ellis Island approach.
Yeah. So first, with regards to immigration, it was mentioned earlier, you got to be down at the border to have an opinion on it. I've actually traveled to the border. I've been to both the border in Arizona and in El Paso, Texas. I've gotten to see the border checkpoints. I've gotten to speak to business owners in the area, residents in the area. I've gotten to see where immigrants are having to be housed because they don't have anywhere else to go. I've gotten to actually witness what's going on in a crisis on the southern border. But it's not caused by immigration. It is caused by government's inability to process people through this immigration process quickly. And that's why I want to create, if I'm elected president, a 21st century Ellis Island model at our southern border that simply says that if you're somebody who's peaceful, who wants to come here and seek the ability to work, again, that's not instant citizenship. That's not the ability to vote. This is the ability to come here and work and make the best of your economic output, which is your labor, which is capital. And you should have the ability to move that through a free market and get the best output that you can, which many times is working here in the United States. So if you're just coming here to peacefully work, come through a port of entry, declare who you are so we can do a basic background check, know who's coming in, who's going out, kind of a thing. And if you're not seeking to harm anybody, you should be able to come right through in a very easy process that allows you to come here to work. Expanding our visa processes, just making it so easy for people to come here and work. What that does is it does allow us, to remove this bottleneck, this that we're having, the asylum process, where so many people are coming here to claim asylum, when the truth is they want to come here to work, but they're claiming asylum because it's the easiest way to stay here and maintain some sort of legal status in that process. But asylum really should be for people who are escaping political tyranny or violence and need to get through immediately claiming asylum where they're at and then being able to come to the United States. And that process just isn't working the way it should because we're not able to easily process those immigrants who want to come here and work. The other advantage of the 21st century Ellis Island is it does allow our law enforcement to keep its eye on the ball with those who are seeking to do harm. People who want to bring people through human trafficking, whether it's for labor or sexual exploitation, or, while I'm in the drug war guy, and I believe all drugs should be decriminalized, I also oppose now as we're seeing people bringing fentanyl that looks like Xanax over the border, selling it in our streets and causing people to OD because they don't know what they're taking. And that is fraud. That is wrong and does deserve to be punished. And so those are the kinds of crimes that we need to stop coming over our border while allowing that 99.9% of people to basically just we talk about the economic impact, by the way. I have some numbers here just to back up our claim. So Texas, right? I just got back from Texas. We're going to speak from Ryan from El Paso in a little bit. Texas is the second largest state in the United States, has over 30 million people. Also coincidentally has the second highest number of undocumented immigrants. In 2021, that number was over 1.5 million, near 2 million. This makes it a great representation of the illegal immigration affects these states because they're a large population state. They have the second largest population of illegal immigrants. And a report from Rice University, Baker's Institute for Public Policy in Texas estimates that Texas tax revenue collected from these residents actually exceeded what the state spent on them. So the net benefit of these immigrants was actually $421 million in the fiscal year 2018. So they actually made money for the state because they came here, they provided sales tax, they paid into the payroll tax system with their fake Social Security cards. And of course, they paid property tax, whether they're owning property or renting it and having the landlord pass that tax onto them. When you're renting, you're essentially also paying the property tax through those rental fees. And so what we're seeing actually is there's an economic impact in the reverse from what the mainstream narrative is if you look at the actual numbers. We also have to look at the numbers of businesses that are created by immigrants. Immigrants and their children create more businesses than native-born people. So if you look at Fortune 500 companies, I have the numbers right here. 45% of Fortune 500 companies as of 2023 were founded by immigrants or the children of immigrants. This is because they were allowed to come here and seek a better opportunity and a better life, and they harnessed that opportunity to create an amazing, some of the highest earning companies in the country. These companies generated $8.1 trillion worth of revenue in fiscal year 2022. That is twice the GDP of Japan, which is behind the United States and China is the third largest economy in the world. And so this is what the economic impact of immigration is. It actually helps our country grow. Businesses employ, 8.7% of the workforce is under the Fortune 500 companies. So 15 million people, most of these working for businesses created or run by immigrants or children of immigrants. Let's look at the small businesses. Small businesses all over the country are being created by immigrants who want to come here and seek a better life. And I just want to finish with this. When we talk about an Ellis Island model that allows people to come here easily to work, it also allows people who are working here seasonally to go back home. Because I live in Georgia. Georgia is an agricultural state, and it's our largest industry here, and or one of our largest industries, rather. And it requires an immigrant workforce. But what people are now is they come here to work, they work during planting and harvesting, but then they have to stay here because they know going back across the border and then getting back across again is extremely difficult. So they don't do that. They stay here. When in an Ellis Island model system, they would be able to come here and work during planting and harvesting. And instead of just sending their money back home to their family and then having to rely on charity or welfare or in a really, really bad situation, if you ask these folks, they would prefer to be able to take their money with them back home to their families so they could see their families during the off season and use that money back home where that dollar is going to go much further than it does here in the United States. That's what we can do with an Ellis Island model system for some of the largest workforce of immigrant workforces, which is the agricultural workforce that we need in farms all over this country. And if you ask, like they are diehard Republicans, some of these farmers, but they also understand they need immigrants. They need the workforce. And so if we're providing a solution for that, that actually allows people to come here and work during the time they're needed, but then also go back home during the time that they're not, that's better for everyone. That is a better system all around for the business owners, for the consumers here in the United States, and for those who are immigrants who want to go back home. It's a much better process than the broken, complicated, red tape filled, bureaucracy ridden system that the immigration system is today. It is the best example of bad governance. And if you're a libertarian, you should want to see that streamlined, simplified, and allow people to move as the market needs them, as labor requires.
I don't know, man. That sounds way too reasonable. That sounds like giving people increased freedom, giving people choice. And I mean, he even thinks it sounds way too reasonable. Joe Hanush, I'm in the comment section following along. I appreciate the perspective. Where would you put this Ellis Island style immigration thing? Would it be a place like actual Ellis Island down on the border?
Yeah, it would be through every major port of entry, which, like I said, I was down the border. I got to see the actual port of entry in El Paso, Texas. We could set something up right there that would allow for easy processing for people to come through. Of course, I also spoke to business owners who see the desperation that these immigrants have and want to hire them, but they can't because there's no legal documentation for them to work. I spoke to a restaurant owner that said, I would hire a group of these immigrants to work. We need busboys, we need servers, we need hosts, we need bartenders. We would hire these people to work if they wanted to for a good, we just can't because they don't have any process to work. And of course, El Paso is within the 100-mile federal border patrol zone that allows the border patrol to basically come into any business and ask for papers. By the way, most of the United States population lives within 100 miles of a coastline or a borderline. And so it allows the border patrol to have this kind of increased jurisdiction over your city, over your town, over your community. For most of the Americans, especially if you live on the Eastern Seaboard, I'm talking New York, Philadelphia, Boston, these places live on ports. The border patrol technically has a right and jurisdiction over 100 miles inland, which is, if you look at a map, that's
huge.
So you talked a little bit about folks moving back and forth, and something that a lot of people don't realize, maybe because they've never moved outside of the hometown that they were born and raised in, is it costs money. It costs a lot of money to move. And the people that are coming across the border, and I know this firsthand, when I was younger, when I was like 18, 19 years old, I had a boyfriend that was a fiance who had migrated illegally across the border by foot. He still had to pay. Then he got on the back of an 18-wheeler and was human trafficked, basically, all the way from, the Rio Grande River, where he was picked up, crossed the desert, and took the 18-wheeler all the way from Texas to North Carolina, where I was. And that takes, not only does it take money, because he actually had to pay to be human trafficked. It takes the spirit, it takes the drive, it takes the ambition. And that's why we have so many small business leaders that are immigrants, because they already have that ambition. They have that drive. They have left their nest. And that's something that a lot of Americans aren't doing nowadays. They're not, leaving their nest. They're not leaving their comfort zone. They're not getting out and trying something that's innovative. They're not too comfortable.
Yeah.
The last stat I heard said that immigrants were 4 times more likely to become millionaires in the United States than people born here.
I don't know. So I just want to speak to your comment there, Feena, about people having to be trafficked across here. Much like the war on drugs, if we ended the war on drugs, we would remove the black market ability for the cartels to profit off of the war on drugs. if we remove this war on free movement of people, the war on immigration, we would remove the profit incentive for these coyotes. If people could easily process themselves through a port of entry, you would have travel costs to get you from place to place, but you wouldn't be having to pay a coyote to sneak you under a fence or through barbed wire or over a river. That profit incentive would be removed, and we would actually see far less of those kinds of crossings from peaceful people. Now, you would still see people trying to do that, but there's a much higher likelihood that those people who are trying to bypass a very easy to process system through a port of entry are people who are going to be trying to do things illegal, trafficking people for, like I said, for sex trafficking, or again, people who are frauding people by making drugs that look like a Xanax, but it's actually fentanyl, which contributes to the addiction and the overdose crisis that we have here in this country. That's fraud. Again, to be decriminalized, I'm a libertarian, but I recognize fraud when I see it. And so those kinds of actions, if you're trying to cross the border when there's an easy processing center right down the road, if you're trying to cross over a river, people might question why you're doing the harder thing. Well, maybe it's because you're not wanting to be easily processed and seen and checked as you go through. And so I think it speaks to removing the profit motive for these cartels to move peaceful people through will be a better system overall. And you're right, the drive to get here, people don't just wake up one day and they're like, I'm just going to walk to America. They do it because they see a real opportunity here. Just like the last generation. That's why I call it a 21st century Ellis Island, because the last great migration wave we had through the 19th and 20th century was through the Ellis Island port. It was where 40% of people who live in this country, 40% of citizens, can trace their lineage back through a relative at Ellis. So 4 in 10 people have some sort of connection through the immigrant story through the last great migration wave. And it created businesses all over this country. It created communities. It created an entire, when we look at the last great migration from Europe, which created, the German American community, the Italian American community, the Irish American community, all these great, the Polish and the Russians and people who came from all over the world to make it for a better life here. And they built this country up. They helped contribute to the amazing patchwork quilt that is this country, which has always made us strong because, you come from anywhere in the world and become an American. And that is something that is exceptional about this country. That's something that makes us different from the rest of the world. I don't really like to quote Ronald Reagan a whole lot because he's not my favorite president. No president's really been my favorite president, but he talks to right twice a day. And he said in his farewell address, I'm paraphrasing, you can travel to Japan and live in Japan and you'll never be Japanese. You can travel to Turkey or Germany or France, but you'll never be a Turk, a German, or a Frenchman. But anyone from anywhere can come to the United States and become an American. That is truly, and if you really want to talk about what makes America great, it's not demonized to claim that they're the ones who are the cause of all the ills in the world and all the crime that we see, and they're just rapists and terrible people, as some presidential candidates who say that, and they say they want to make America great. But the truth is America's made great by people coming here from all over the world to make it great, make their lives better, and in the process, making the lives of our communities better through market, through building businesses and making opportunity. I'll tell you right now, I will take a hardworking immigrant any day of the week who wants to come here in this country because they're going to make it better. They're going to contribute to it and they're going to grow the economic pie. And I welcome, as a guy who's, is just as a white boy whose family's been here for generations, right? But the truth is a lot of my family came here through the last great wave of migration in the 19th century. So I'm thankful they did, because I wouldn't be here otherwise. And I think it's time for the next generation to be able to better up.
Got some comments here from Free Patriot Artist. Immigration is a huge part of why the U.S. has been the most prosperous country in the world. And that is 100% true. Even the railroads were built by Chinese immigrants. Joe Hanush says his parents are immigrant and small business owners. He also says that Florida is 100% covered by that Fourth Amendment infringement. And we also have a new, I'm so terrible about pronouncing his name, but he's from Africa, watching live, duly support a Libertarian candidate, Chase Oliver, for president. I think he meant to say, and Mike Tremette. And then Joe Hanush also say immigrants pay more in taxes than government services they receive. I do want to open it up for folks that are watching. If you're watching this and you have any questions for Chase, please put them in the chat. and we'll try to get those answered. But we're going to cut to another commercial. And I really want, we're going to really go in a little bit deeper into this Ellis Island, like where would you put it? And how are you going to make sure that people actually funnel in there? But before we do that, like I said, we're going to go to another Chase Oliver commercial.
If no candidate receives over 50%, then the top two candidates head to a runoff. Now we know this race will head to a runoff.
New focus on the influence of libertarians in Georgia's Senate race. There's another player in the mix.
Voters deserve a chance to have their voices heard, and they shouldn't have to be lumped into one box or the other and have to be shamed into voting into two parties.
These two major parties aren't addressing their pain.
The CBO themselves said the Inflation Reduction Act wouldn't actually reduce inflation. Are you actually reading the bills, or are you just taking Chuck Schumer's word for it when you vote on these things? We obviously need to audit the Fed. Once people get a little bit more education about what the Federal Reserve does, they'll want to see it ended. You know, we claim to be the light of liberty unto the world, and if we seek to hold that mantle, we have to fix our broken immigration system. Big Pharma is subsidized to the tune of billions of dollars a year by our government. The only thing Democrats and Republicans can agree on is how to spend your money out of thin air and devalue our dollar. We need to bring market forces into healthcare that are going to lower the prices. I believe that we need true justice reform at every level, from the police to the courts to the prosecutors. And we need to do away with mandatory minimums. We need to do away with qualified immunity so that law enforcement can be held accountable in a court of law just like any of us. And that's something that I fought for. I've gotten tear gas in the streets while I protest for justice reform. Don't take politicians' advice for your health care. Take your doctor's advice. Why is that the radical idea and not the rational idea? I want to take power out of the hands of government and return it to each and every one of you, because that's where it resides. If not voted was actually on the ballot, they would win nearly every election in this country. Most of the people who vote represent themselves as independent, so it's important that we have voices that are independent of the two parties on stage. I want you to be able to start a small business. I want you to have control over your own body, and I want you to be able to live your life as your authentic self in peace. I'm Chase Oliver, a candidate for president, and I approve this message.
All right. I love that commercial. I think that's probably my favorite one because it's kind of bold. And so we're talking the border, and we said Ellis Island approach. Do you want to give a little history lesson for folks what Ellis Island is? Because there are young people that are curious, and they may not know exactly what Ellis Island is. You want to tell a little history about it?
Yeah, so Ellis Island actually visited there last year. It is off the coast of New York. It is near the Statue of Liberty. During the last great wave of European migration were sent to be processed and basically background checked and then admitted into the United States. 98% of those who were there were allowed. And it was the last great wave of migration we had. Again, no system of government migration is perfect. Of course, we do have to remember that there were many Jewish, European Jews who were actually denied entry to the United States, who were later turned back around and fortunately lost their lives during the Second World War, during the Holocaust. And so as imperfect as the system is, I do think that it is demonstrating the last time that we had a great migration wave into this country, which helped build us up. And as I said, 4 in 10 Americans can trace their roots back to Ellis Island through the registry room, which is literally the room where you're signing your name. You can see it's where many American names, where many European names were kind of bastardized into Americanized versions of names because the registry people could not spell them correctly or could not pronounce them correctly. And so a lot of people can trace back their roots right through that room to say, this is why my last name is this, is because it should have been this, but because this as we came through this country. And it really is the American story in a nutshell. And so when you look up, when you see the old footage of like steamships with immigrants and they're passing by the Statue of Liberty and waving to her and seeing her torch held high, and this is where they were heading to basically be doing background and health checks to make sure people could come into the country. I recommend anybody who ever goes through the New York area to take the time to go see it. It is an important landmark. And you do really feel an awesome sense of like history when you're in the area, when you're in the room. And so I think ultimately it's just indicative of the American spirit for so many people who came here seeking a better life. And that's why I want to continue that policy. But our 21st Century Ellis Island model is just the name of it. It's not one specific place. It's any port of entry where people can come here to legally declare themselves. And ultimately, we want to see people who are here without documentation, who are undeclared right now in the United States, be able to also declare themselves. And so you would also do that internally with an internal practice of saying, if you're here without documentation, please go declare yourselves, do a quick background check, and get yourselves formally documented. That will keep your labor from being exploited as a foreign worker who's coming here and having to have their wages undercut because they're undocumented. B, it allows us to know who's here, how many people are here, gives us a better idea of who's. C, if you don't go sign up for that, there's a good chance that you're here for some sort of reason that is not involving being on the up and up, and can focus law on those who are trying to hide in the shadows to commit crime or to harm people. So I think ultimately, all around, this process is one that's better for us as the native-born American citizens. It's better for those who are seeking a better life to come here as immigrants. And it is better for our system of government that allows us to have civil protections for both immigrant and non-immigrant alike. And lastly, I think we need to improve the process of becoming a citizen eventually. Far too many people wait in a line that's over a decade long to become citizens. These are people who have children here, who are American citizens, who are business owners here, who are making a better life, who maybe have a green card and are married to somebody and they want to get citizenship. We need to streamline that process as well to allow people who want to become full-time Americans, who want to live here, contribute here, vote here, to be able.
So basically you're saying Ellis Island is on the internet now.
Yeah, it's a 21st century Ellis Island. It should be, well, in Ellis Island, it took weeks to kind of process people, to check their backgrounds and things. We can do this in hours nowadays with the technology we have at our hands. It's very easy, that kind of stuff. And, frankly, it can be done. And I would urge that if we do pass a 21st century Ellis Island, that we allow a private company to do this and not just a governmental organization. We don't want a TSA line at the border. We want to have a quick, streamlined process. So that needs to be bid out to a contract, to a private organization, and not just relying on basically border TSA.
You got to take your shoes off to come in America.
Yep. Take your shoes and your hats off and belts off before you come in. Now, but you should have some sort of background checking. But as we've seen, TSA is not really the best for that. I have a fun story about that. I have a razor that uses straight razor blades, and I didn't read on the website that's like, if you travel with this, you're going to need to check your bag. And so I just had it through my carry-on, and it was the 5th time I was going through an airport when they flagged it, tossed my razor blades, and I could only think, I've been through TSA 4 previous times, and none of you have caught this. So that's a 1 in 5 success rate. That's literally 20%. Doesn't make me feel reassured at all.
You'd be amazed at how often TSA lets weapons and stuff go through accidentally when they're doing inspections. If you ever get a chance, go Google it. It's hilarious.
Oh yeah, their failure rate is ginormous. So this is why I would want whoever is processing at the southern border to not be under the auspices of Homeland Security and government bureaucrats. I would like to have some sort of private transparency and accountability there, and that's. Of course, as a libertarian, we know that's much better done through the private marketplace.
So I do have some questions from the audience now. We got Joe Hanush again. How can we help your campaign?
Well, you see that website right underneath my name, votechaseoliver.com. If you go there, there's a lovely donate button right there at the top. You can donate, or if you want to get involved as a volunteer, you can also do that as well. I know not everybody's got money to donate, though we will take your money if you want to give it to us. Certainly, if you do have the money to spare, please help this campaign, put the fuel in the engine. But if you also want to put your feet in and help the campaign, you can get involved as a volunteer or just stay up to date with what we're doing. But go to votechaseoliver.com, check out the resources there. And make sure you are getting involved in the campaign, either as a donor, supporter, or a volunteer. And thank you, Joe, for asking the question because it allowed. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I always say too, just Google them, because they track the analytics of that as well. Liberty Twitcher. So because of that history, we should continue letting people sneak in despite the welfare magnet drawing them in.
So first, 21st century Ellis Island actually doesn't have people sneaking in. It has people coming right through and being processed through in a very orderly way that allows us to know who's coming in. As far as the welfare state magnet that people talk about, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We're libertarians. We can both talk about the free movement of labor, capital, and people across an arbitrary border, as well as also talk about the need for us to not have our tax money stolen from us to be reallocated through a government washing machine of where they give you back a dime in welfare services. We know that the better way to help our neighbors and our communities and those who are suffering, those who are less fortunate, and those who need help is not through a bureaucratic welfare machine, but it's actually through direct and mutual aid in our communities. And if we could get the government out of our pockets and quit robbing us of our wealth, we could actually here in our communities. So I can actually argue for both. The fact that we need to have immigrants to come here and work, we need to have people contributing and growing the economic pie, creating business, recognizing that they're also, again, according to those studies, taking in less, creating more taxpayer money than they are taking in terms of welfare programs. They're actually creating a surplus there. They're growing the economic pie and the economic outlook. But also, with regards to, the welfare systems, we can argue that those things need to be taken away without denigrating immigrants, without demonizing them, and recognizing also, by the way, that if we want to look up who is using these welfare programs, there's an awful lot of native-born Americans that are using them too. There's a lot of corporations that are using the welfare system to allow their employees to not get paid enough to get by and saying, well, just go apply for food stamps. Look at the Walmarts of America. And so if we get rid of the welfare state, we're going to be actually improving the outlook for a lot of workers, both native-born and immigrant, and better allocating those resources to help our communities. I think we can argue both those things. I, as a libertarian, am very comfortable doing so because that's exactly what our party platform compels me to do, because those are right in line with our principles.
We got some more questions. We got a friend from Africa. Why is libertarian message not being bought rapidly being adopted by Americans? What informed the voting of Javier Milei in Argentina, and what can U.S. libertarians copy from him? So I think he's saying, what do you think was about Javier Milei that got Argentinians inspired and excited to vote for libertarians, and what can we do to mimic that here in America?
Well, there's two things. One, we can run a bold somebody who's 40 years younger or 30 years younger than my average competitor, lowering the overall age range of presidential candidates quite a bit. And having that energy libertarian message is one thing that we can take from Javier Milei. We can have our bold, we can have our energetic messaging, but we also have to recognize that it's a little bit of apples and oranges, right? We don't want, the conditions that allowed Javier Milei to get elected was 150% inflation month over. It was terrible economic conditions that I hope the United States does not have to get to before they elect a libertarian candidate for president. I hope we can do it more quickly than Argentina did before we fall into the economic morass and despair that the Argentinian people are suffering from right now, that Javier Milei is having to dig them out of. And it's great to see that. It's great to see the economy finally starting to turn the corner a little bit. And Argentina, there's a long road to hoe, but I think Milei is doing a great job there. But I do think we do have to we recognize here in the United States that the conditions that were in Argentina were so desperate that they were like, okay, we're willing to take the libertarian leap. And it had to get to a point where they had 60 years of Peronism and socialism to cause that. I'm hoping we don't have to get our economy in such dire straits before the American public says, hey, maybe we should try the libertarians. And I'm hoping that we can organize ourselves to. This is why I encourage voters who have a libertarian streak, who might be thinking about another candidate for president, vote for the libertarian. Vote for me, even if you don't agree with 100% of everything I say, because you're helping to build up a party and a platform and a foundation that can rise up to challenge the system over time. If you vote for an independent candidate and they don't win, that's one and done. Poof, they're gone. There's nothing created. There's no foundation beyond them. If you're investing in the Libertarian Party, you're not just investing in me as a candidate. You're investing in a bunch of awesome people. You're investing in a party that has great candidates, two of whom are Senate candidates who I'm talking to right now. But there's federal candidates, statewide candidates, and local candidates all over the country that if you vote Libertarian, you're helping to build them up. You're helping to build their foundation up, and you're helping to elect Libertarians up and down the ballot. And so I encourage people not just to vote for me, but to vote Libertarian this November. Find the L's on your ballot and support them. Help grow this party foundation up so we can tear the state down brick by brick. And I think much to our favor. And I think once we do that, once we start building ourselves up and building up our bench and starting to show the local proof of concept of what happens when libertarians get elected in your city or your town or your county or your state, you can really start to show this proof of concept. And we can say, this is what happens when we go higher up. Let's go and elect libertarians. Let's elect libertarians in the United States Senate. Let's elect a libertarian president. Because if we do that, once we show that proof of concept in our communities and our neighborhoods, the sky is the limit. That's how we grow ourselves. That's how we make our Malay moment in the future.
Yeah. It's not just chainsaws. It's definitely not just chainsaws. Although I do believe that if some libertarian were to make a chainsaw video, it would be in all the news because the media loves to portray us as just
So,
crazy.
you know, chainsaws are fun, but I've actually found that we've done some campaign events the last year and so at axe throwing places where, you know, bars where you get to throw axes. I found I'm pretty good at that. So maybe I should start throwing axes at the state instead, like just tomahawk them down.
Well, I told folks last week about, you know, we were jesting about like our campaign props, right? So, I mean, mine's not really a prop. I carry a machete for a lot of things when I'm out by myself. But this is Florida. This is Florida. There's a lot of things that can happen between going from my car to whatever event that I'm going to, just in the wildlife alone. You know?
And your weapon choice is machete?
Yeah.
Hey, you know, both the wildlife and the Florida men out there sometimes require a machete for personal protection. I would, you know, I would think less of you if you didn't have a machete of you in Florida, either on your vehicle or on your person, because God knows, you know, the snakes out there alone.
So I got that. I got a baseball bat and I got a machete. That's what I carry in my car. That's my campaign.
Neither of those, I think, are going to stop a gator very well. So, you know, maybe I'm just going to advise. Just maybe.
So one thing you did say in one of your earlier videos was if you're in a solidly red or blue state, that voting for the opposite party is a waste of your vote. I am in a solidly blue state. I'm in the People's Republic of Maryland. And something like 63% of voters want a third party option. We even have a couple guys in the chat talking about you'll never convince anybody to vote Libertarian. What do you say to those people who are negative Nellying you and telling you you don't have a shot?
Well, you know, first, what I want to say is, you know, nobody's vote is a wasted vote. Honestly, if you vote for who you really want to vote for, it's not wasted. I'll be honest there. But if you're really wanting to make a state party system, voting within it is just not a way to do it. You're never going to hold the two parties accountable in those safe red or safe blue states by just continuing to vote red or blue safely, because they just discount it. They take it for granted. And a great way to send a message that, say, if you live in a safe blue state and maybe you want to tell the Democratic Party that you want a younger candidate for president in the future, vote for the younger candidate for president who is running as a Libertarian. If you're a Republican voter in a safe red state who wants to tell Donald Trump or Republicans, hey, maybe keep your hands off my guns, that includes my bump stock, that includes unconstitutional red flag laws, maybe vote for the two-way absolutionist who's running as the Libertarian to send a message. So my message, you know, is you do live in a safe red or safe blue state, you shouldn't feel afraid to vote outside of those parties to send a real message of accountability and say, if you want my vote in the future, you better do these things because these things are very important to me. Now, to those who say we have no shot or that we're spoilers, first off, how can I spoil something that is as rotten as the two-party system that exists in Washington, D.C.? There's no way to spoil something that is just and sitting out and festering in the sun for years. That's what the two-party system is. So there's no way to spoil it. It's already spoiled. All we can do now is boldly inject ideas and principles into it and hope that people grow into that. And yeah, if it means holding the other parties accountable, yes, vote for me. But also, let's change the way we vote. Let's fight for things like ranked choice voting in your state or in your community. Alaska, and I hope to be the first choice of many Mainers and Alaskans as they go to the voting booth this November with no fear of spoiling. We also have that for municipal elections in New York City, the largest municipal government in the country that's bigger than several state governments. And so to me, it seems that we can pass ranked choice voting in states across the country to hold our voters accountable. By the way, ranked choice voting, we would have a more civil election process. Like, let's say we had ranked choice voting instead of a runoff in Georgia in 2022. Well, guess what? The Democrats would have been coming to us Libertarians and saying, hey, guys, we know you're going to put Chase first in your ballot, but here's why you need to put me second. And Herschel Walker from the Republicans would be coming in and saying, hey, we know you guys like Chase the most, but here's why you need to put Herschel second. And would actually create a more civic engaged process where parties, instead of just attacking each other and hating on each other, would find commonality, find coalitions to build with each other, and find single issues that voters could attract themselves to and really have a more representative, overall better process. But that process doesn't happen unless we say loud and clear, we're going to vote outside the two-party system. We're not afraid to do that. And we're going to hold our elected leaders accountable in these safe red and these safe blue states.
So one of the, speaking of coalitions, one of my mantras, and I'm making a hashtag, I don't know if anybody else wants to add on to it, but definitely do. No red, no blue, no matter who. So if you see a Green Party trying to promote themselves, yeah, sure. Why not? Good for you. Glad that you're on our side of against the duopoly. So no red, no blue, no matter who. Because libertarians, we're not in every single race, but maybe there's a Green Party. Maybe there's a Constitution Party. And they're better than the Republican and Democrats because it's going to send a message, not just to our local elections, but also to our highest level at the presidency, that we are tired of this duopoly. We are tired of this gridlock that we have in our government that is hurting the American people. And we do have some more commercials, or not commercials, but questions. We do have commercials too, but here's one from Free Patriot Artist. How do you distinguish between removing government from healthcare, parental rights with healthcare involving minors, and parents forcing unnecessary healthcare on minors?
Yeah, so I think we already have a process to adjudicate those things. So we already have abuse and neglect laws that exist in the book. We have courts that can argue those and distinguish between those. If you, as it feels like they are, so in the situation where there's two parents and one parent feels like something is medically unnecessary, the other one does not, there's arbitration and processes to argue that out. When it comes to society deciding what is medically necessary and unnecessary for parents, that's where the realm of a doctor comes in to advise and consent, and there's malpractice laws. So if a doctor advises something that is against conventional wisdom that can be proven to be court, there should be malpractice lawsuits for that, and there should be no tort caps for those things, because that would put a little bit more caution into doctors before deciding what to do. They would get a little bit more insight and really study what they are prescribing and the therapies and the medications and the processes that they would be going through. They would be more advised, or actually better incentivized to be better advised for fear of a lawsuit. And so these are ways to keep free from government intervention, to hold them accountable to the individual through our judicial system as it exists, because the purpose of our judicial system is to protect the civil liberties from being invaded by another through adjudication in the courts. And three, this will allow for parents to be those who are the primary caregivers, the primary decision makers for their children, to determine what is and what is not an appropriate level of health care. I think those are the best people that we need to be looking at, is the patients, of a minor, a patient and their parent who's going to be their guardian, their advocate, and the doctor, the people who need to be deciding healthcare, not a state board, a state bureaucrat, certainly not people who are politicizing medicine. I think that's one of the dumbest things we could possibly doing. And I think if you look at what we had during COVID, during the height of the pandemic, we saw full political and of medication, and that created huge division in this country. It created the lockdowns that were arbitrary and were unneeded. It created all sorts of things and controls on that behalf of government that allowed them to determine the healthcare choices of Americans in too many cases. We don't need to be pushing that any further in any other realm, certainly not with COVID, but with any other realm of healthcare, and with medication and with healthcare choices. That needs to be the realm of a person and their doctor. Age of 18, we need to be relying on a parent or a guardian who's responsible for that young person to be making those decisions in consultation with that patient and that doctor. That is where the freedom lies, in the most local governance, self-governance. Do no harm. If you're not harming anybody, if you're only looking out for yourself or for your own healthcare, it should not be the business of anybody else, and certainly not a state government or a federal government from a faraway state house or Washington, D.C.
Okay, we're going to cut to commercial, and when we come back, we're going to get into that campaign update. It takes a lot to get someone to vote for a third-party candidate. It takes a lot of work for that. It takes even more convincing and swaying to get someone to volunteer. But by far, the biggest obstacle there is as a third-party candidate is to get someone to donate and go against the system. So I want to tell folks, whatever ideas you might have about a third party being a spoiler, whatever you think about a third party candidate being your vote wasted, because it's not. We earn our votes. We don't steal them. We earn them. And if you vote for me or you vote for a Libertarian, it's because we earned it.
I don't.
All right.
What you do with your body should be none of the government's business. Your body is your body. Your property is your property. Your life is your life. Vote Libertarian. My friend Chase Oliver is standing for president, and I'm out here running for vice president on the Libertarian Party ticket because we believe that your decisions should be your own. Go for a run if you want. Or not.
All right. Okay. Let me get a nice banner up here. Let's see. Here we go. Boom. There we go. We got your store. Hey, check it out. Lots of cool stuff at the Chase Oliver store. This is a special campaign update because we have the actual candidate here. Lots of buttons. We had some good stuff this weekend at the rally that we did in Seminole County. Has some nice t-shirts. So we're going to start going through these pictures, okay? So here's one from, let me move this. Uh-oh. There we go. That's, where's this at, Chase?
That is in Pennsylvania during that's just a small city outside of Philadelphia. We're doing a local 4th of July parade. Having a great time, I believe. That is, that right there is in, that's right there in Philadelphia at the waterfront, where we're getting voter petition signatures to put me as well as other Libertarians on the ballot in Pennsylvania, speaking to local members of the Muslim community who they expressed outrage with both Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Donald Trump for his Muslim ban and Joe Biden for the war in Gaza. And so they are Libertarians. In fact, they took a couple of ballot access sheets so they can go to their local community, fill those out and return them to us. This is in Quakerstown, Pennsylvania. We were at the local July 4th fair out there, and we met a guy who had a shirt that said Libertarians, and it said more smoke or less government, more smoke. And we believe that, he needed to have that sign right there, that pork belongs in sandwiches, not in front of his business. So he loved the saying there, and I do love the fan you have right there in front of you, Feena. So this is also me posing for the camera. I got caught. I was photobombing myself, I guess. This is also on the waterfront. This is me in New Jersey at Gun for Hire, which is a great, by the way, shout out to the great folks at Gun for Hire Ranges out there in New Jersey. Day at the range with some folks. As you can see, the zombie is dead as can be. He's dead again. I've killed him twice.
That's a headshot.
That was a headshot. Got him in the shoulder there. We had a few others. That was right there with the 9mm. So that was a fun day shooting. This is me meeting voters again in Quakerstown from all across the spectrum: Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Libertarians who are wanting more choices on their ballot. We got lots of signatures. This is me at that parade there again, sweating to death. It was like 100 degrees outside, but luckily we had some lovely breathable shirts and talking to voters one-on-one out there. Shout out to our volunteers who are also running around, literally passing out literature. So not only were they walking along the truck, they were running back and forth to hand out literature. So they were huffed. I got to say thank you so much to our volunteers. There's me and Ken Krawchuk, the Libertarian candidate for governor in Pennsylvania, on the microphone out there telling people to vote Libertarian. Shouting out people. This is in the Constitution Hall, or no, this is actually in the Liberty Bell. This is where the Liberty Bell is, right there. If you can see that sign, that is gay rights protesters pre-Stonewall in the 60s. And they're saying things like homosexuals want government to leave us alone, things like that. So very kind of libertarian-ish signage there at the Liberty Bell. I have the photos there somewhere, but yeah, there's some great signs there. And this is me in front of our first president in front of our next president. Let's call it that, right? This is outside of Constitution Hall in Philadelphia. There's me in front of the Liberty Bell. And that's me and Ken Krawchuk, who's running for governor this is right after or right before the parade. It looks before the parade because we don't look completely covered in sweat. So I'm going to assume this is before the parade or we had time to clear up. This is out in New Jersey. We were at a lovely Jersey with Ken Kaplan, who is the U.S. candidate for Senate or the candidate for U.S. Senate in New Jersey, as well as some other Jersey candidates. We got some local congressional candidates right there. She looked so beautiful in black all day, even though it was 100 degrees. I was like, what are you doing wearing all black? But she was just giving us, she was off like Western realness. I really liked the look.
You said she's running for office too?
She is running for Congress. I'm trying to remember the district. Oh my God.
What's her name?
Oh my God. Let me pull it up. You got me on the thing, and now my brain is like, oh shit. I'm looking it up right now because I have you were just talking to me yesterday or the other day on Messenger, and now I can't find it. Give me one moment. I will come back to you. Just give me 1 second.
You know what? Just text it to me later because I'm looking for more candidates.
Why is my brain not firing? You just gave me my Aleppo moment of the campaign.
That's not a bad Aleppo moment. I mean, you're okay.
The truth is that I called. Okay, so full disclosure, I called someone named Janet Brittany, and it was because I thought they were someone named Brittany, and I was like, "Oh, Brittany, nice to see you." And they said, "I'm Janet." Worry about calling people names if I don't absolutely have it written in front of me, because God forbid. Anyway,
it's okay.
So
this is not pop quiz. More
that's
friends.
Ken. I know Ken because here's why I know Ken. Ken was easy to remember because we had Ken Krawchuk running for governor in Pennsylvania. We got Ken Kaplan running for U.S. Senate in the state of New Jersey. They also came out and said hello to me at the 9/11 memorial that was out there in Morristown. So we had a great time in New Jersey. All I can say is I love disco fries. Another fellow candidate for Congress who's, God, why is my name's escaping me today?
It's okay. We're on to some.
No, and this is a lovely car magnet. We tried to get it to stick to the campaign vehicle for our parade, and it just, they don't. But this is that is Dan Kraus, who is the chair of the Libertarian Party of New Jersey, and we are covering his car with a lovely banner there.
So next week, so this week you got Freedom Fest. This week you're at Freedom Fest. What do you have on the agenda for next week?
Well, so first off, I just want to tell you kind of what we did last week in terms of media, just to kind of give us a media update. Because, normally the lovely Amber and Gabby are here to talk about media, but we've given them the day off because, hey, I'm here, so let me do it. So I just want to talk a little bit about what we did last week. So last week we had Forbes Magazine, The Washington Post, News Talk 93.1 FM, The Voice of Reason, and as well as Peachtree Normal, which is the local normal chapter here in the state of Georgia, organization for the appeal of marijuana laws. Wonderful group of people. So that was me last week, having a great media week. Mike did WFAA, which is local ABC out there in Texas, when he was traveling. I went one day in Houston and one day in San Antonio. Mike did an entire tour through the hotness of Texas and Oklahoma. So props to him. He also did a show with Abdul Hakim Shabazz, ABC in Indiana, and CBS in Indiana as well, while he was up in Indianapolis doing his thing up there. Shout out to LP Indiana, some great Hoosier folks up there. He got some great Hoosier media. That was this week or last week. This week, Mike has been doing the Arcadia Economics podcast, a show called Pasta to Go, which sounds just carb-tastic and delicious. I don't know if they're talking about actual pasta or not, but good on him. He's doing the
red sauce or white sauce.
Yeah. Oh, what's that?
Red sauce or white sauce?
Ooh, I'm a little bit of both, but right now, Volo sauce with Italian sausage that was delicious and spicy. I had it the other day. We have the Kate Daly show that Mike's going to be appearing on, as well as Bob and Erica Save America podcast, which guess what? I'm also going to be on the Bob and Eric Save America podcast this week, as well as Speaking to Reason, KOA Radio. We just did Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Rishi on the TYT network, as well as WGAN FM 98.5. We did some great radio. We did some great podcasts. We did some traditional media. Me and Mike have been killing it. And we're going to continue to kill it this week as we head to Freedom Fest in Las Vegas. So we're going to be heading to Sin's, my favorite place to play slots and play craps. But we're not going to have a lot of time for that because we're going to be doing a lot of talking about panels, breakout rooms. Me and Mike are being participating all across the conference, as well as participating. Of course, I will be in the free and equal debates July the 12th. That is hosted by Christina Tubin of the Free and Equal Foundation and Thomas Massey, the Republican congressman from Again, myself, Jill Stein of the Green Party, Randall Terry of the Constitution Party will be participating. West, Robert Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump, and Joe Biden, should they want to come to Las Vegas. Now, we're bringing the heat, and not just in the heat of the campaign. We're also going during the hottest week in Las Vegas. So once again, the campaign is sending me out to sweat. But you know what? I can handle it. No sweat off my back. And in fact, it just shows that I can take the heat a lot more than Donald Trump or Joe Biden. That's for sure. While they're riding around in their golf cart and barely able to comprehend a sentence, I'm going to be out there speaking to voters, speaking the message of freedom to Freedom Fest. And Mike will be joining me along the way. We're going to have a great time. It's more and more rare that we get to spend a lot of time with each other, me and Mike. So I'm looking forward to being on the ground in Las Vegas with him. And then this Liberty train will just keep on chugging. And so we look forward to telling you what we're doing in the future. But in the meantime, look for us in Las Vegas. It's going to be a great weekend. I
got to say, I think you guys are really paired well. I really do. I'm very pleased with our Libertarian ticket this go round. I know that there's some people that had other feelings, but I'm very pleased with this turnout. I thought that all the presidential candidates in our Libertarian presidential campaign leading up to the convention were great. They did an awesome job campaigning and getting the vote, getting Libertarians to come to their side. And most of the candidates even came on my 40 Hours for Freedom, the telethon that I did. You did, and I just thought you guys were really a good set, and I'm very happy that you guys got to continue to work together, because that was one of the questions I asked on the 40 Hours for Freedom. And unfortunately, that portion of 40 Hours for Freedom did not get recorded because the internet only records the first 12. And so that happened after, I think, midnight on Friday night. Didn't get recorded, and that's when all the presidential candidates came on. But I do have a little bit of an inside scoop about you guys. About you, at least, about a potential coming to Florida event. And I just got one question about this event. Are you Team Angel or Team Bones?
Oh, yeah. So, I might be coming to Orlando for the Fanboy Expo there, and to exercise both my nerdiness and to share it with all the other fellow community. Now, I am going to say I am definitely more on the Angel side of things than Bones. I don't think I've ever seen an episode of Bones. I maybe have seen an episode of Bones, but Angel, because I have a brother who was a hardcore Buffy fan. So, I have a brother who, was a hardcore Buffy stan growing up. And so by proxy, I absorbed the Buffy the Vampire Slayer fandom, even though that is who he always will be, is always going to be Angel, right? I'm definitely Team Angel there. And I look forward to getting down in Florida, honestly. It's going to be a great time down there. I keep saying,
Chase, I'm going to put you on the spot right now. I'm a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan too, and I'm definitely Team Angel as well. So when you come down here for Fanboy, do you want a wing girl?
Yeah. Oh, please come and see me. Come say hello. Yes, let's do it. I may or may not be cosplaying as Spike. I'm just kidding. I'm not cosplaying. No.
You got to get the blonde hair. You got to get the leather jacket.
Exactly. Full Billy Idol look. We're just going to go full vampire Billy Idol look. Do it. Great for votes. No cosplaying this year. That's just, usually though I play villains, so that would kind of fit right in, because he's kind of an anti-hero, kind of he's been both good guy and bad guy a little bit. I think that would be just in line. I've done all kinds. Low-key, I think my favorite villain I've ever cosplayed as is I did the Tiger King one year. I was Joe Exotic.
I remember that.
Yeah, I did the whole thing. I had the mullet wig, I had the sparkly shirt, I had the eyebrow ring hanging on for dear life, all of it. So it was I enjoy that kind of fun. And in fact, I will say this: the nerd / fantasy / sci-fi fan community. Is one that is a lot of fun. It's one that I'm an authentic member of that community, so I don't have to fake it till I make it like some politicians do when they walk into a room. No, I'm ready to be fully immersed in the Fanboy Expo if I can get down there in Orlando. It'll be a lot of great fun. And yes, you can totally be my wing woman and join me down there, and we'll have some great fun spreading the message of liberty.
Yeah. Looking through the comments real quick. Here we go. See you at Freedom Fest. So Free Patriot Artists is gonna be at the Freedom Fest. And don't worry about the heat, says Liberty Twitcher. Very dry, not uncomfortable.
I lived in Vegas for 6 years. It's comfortable inside the hotels in July and August. You go inside the hotels under AC. You don't walk the strip, not till after dark.
It's just about staying hydrated, knowing when the sun is out, and God bless skyways and walkthroughs through hotels. But yeah, in Las Vegas, it's one of my favorite cities to go to. I once made $4,000 or a couple grand rather playing craps with my roommate in the Bellagio. So that's why craps is my favorite game. It was between the hours of 2 and 4 a.m. I think that we made that money. So
you're on a heater.
Well,
hey, it was just a lot of fun and a great trip. And it is a wonderful city, very libertarian-ish city. There's a lot of libertarian streaks through there because it's a very live and let live kind of community. Like even I will say this, even the police there are like, hey man, if you're not harming anybody, just like do what you do. Like they're very much about letting people live and enjoy themselves and recognizing that it's a tourist town and that people are going to have fun there. And that if you're not harshing anybody else's vibe, you should be free to do what you about Las Vegas.
So we do have our other guest, Ryan Woodcraft, backstage. And Chase, I love having you on, but I'm going to give Ryan a little bit of time to himself first. And if you want to come back on in about 15, 20, well, maybe we're like more like 20 minutes, and then we'll have you guys both on. That's cool. But we're going to cut to another commercial. Yes.
Before we get out, I had to say it. I realized I was muted when I was saying her name. New Jersey 7, Lana Leguia, Leguia, Lana. There you go.
Lana, there you go. See,
I've been trying to say her name, but yeah, New Jersey 7 Congress.
Thank you. I knew it was, and I'll tell you right now, I was thinking in my brain, Lana Lang from Man Comic Books. But thank you for pulling that name out.
She's going to start the Gothitarian caucus.
Well, when I say she was like really serving, like her look was amazing. Like I have to say, like, and it's all black, but it was like black, but she was like giving like prairie realness with her hat and everything. Anyway, Lana's amazing. She also joined us at the 9/11 thing in Morristown. Anyways, I'm going to pop out for a little bit. Let Ryan just want to say, everyone get out and support Ryan Woodcraft in his race. I can't wait to be back down in El Paso knocking on doors for him. So I'm going to let you guys do that and pop out.
Thank you so much for coming, man. That was wonderful. I'm glad you had a chance to get your message out because there's a lot of crap going around and you're the right choice because you're the only libertarian on the ticket, man. So vote libertarian.
Oh yeah. Vote libertarian up and down the ballot, including for Ryan. Including for y'all.
At least 37 million people have been displaced from their homes because of the United States wars.
A bit of rice is all she has to feed her 12 children.
They destroyed our homes, and now we have nothing.
I'm anti-war to the core, and that means I oppose the warfare state as it exists all over the world, and we need to bring our troops back home.
Every time a bomb drops on an innocent person and their collateral damage, that collateral damage is bought and paid for by your tax dollars in the military-industrial complex. And we need to reject that.
American and coalition forces.
30,000 additional troops.
Precision strikes on targets.
31 Abrams tanks to Ukraine.
I saw friends of mine getting to go sit in a fight and die and be injured in wars that we knew were based on lies that our government was telling us. They tried to expand the security state using 9/11 as an excuse. And that's what got me passionate into politics. We have to fight for a peace-based foreign policy. And we've had presidential candidates in the past say things like, we're going to close Gitmo, we're going to end the wars, we're going to stop the drones, and we're going to actually talk to our enemies using diplomacy as a tool. That presidential candidate actually got elected. His name was Barack Obama, and he lied about every single promise he made. And that pushed me out of the two-party system and right into the hands of the Libertarian Party. And I was welcome in because this is the real anti-war party in this country.
I will end wars. I will stop drones. I will close Gitmo, and I will talk to our enemies because diplomacy is better than war.
I'm Chase Oliver, the candidate for president, and I approve this message.
All right, folks, we have from the great state of Texas and ground zero of the border crisis, we have Ryan Woodcraft. Da, 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 da. Let me get some. How are you, Ryan?
What's going on, y'all? How you doing?
Living the dream, man. It's awesome. Welcome.
How do I follow Chase Oliver? Like, you want to talk about bringing the heat, and I got to follow him? My goodness.
Just repeat some of his points. It'll be okay.
I had to shoot him a text message right after he finished. He was way too gracious at the end there. I love Chase. We're looking forward to getting him back out here on the campaign trail.
So on the campaign, we're talking about borders today. Now, you live at ground zero, basically, of what most people consider the border crisis. How's that affecting your campaign?
Everybody I talk to has a concern about immigration, border security, and some of the policies that impact both. The difficult part for me is that running for county commissioner, I don't have a huge impact. And so it's how do I spread the message of liberty and putting the word human back in humanity when it comes to immigration and border security, especially at the county commissioner level. I'm completely on board with Chase Oliver and his plan on returning to an Ellis Island style program. What we really have to do here in El Paso is what does that look like for local impacts? What does that look like to the economy? What does that look like for our Department of Public Safety and our Border Patrol? And how do we adjust some of those border security processes when we can finally fix the real problem, which is our immigration policies at the federal level?
So I looked at your website. I looked through your website, and I'm gonna share those a little bit. I got your website and your information scrolling across the bottom. And I want to tell folks right now, you are a veteran.
Thank you for your service.
So are you too, right? Navy and Air Force, I believe.
Correct. Somebody did their homework. Hey.
A little bit.
Army for over 20 years, I believe you said. You were.
I served for 21 years in the Army.
Hoorah.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah. So, Mike, for the Air Force folks that I worked with, I know you weren't one, but it was typically the 1 Charlie 5s that I worked with. And Feena, for you, it was mainly the OSs. Like, I knew you were on some Aegis, so a lot of the folks I worked with were the OSs in the command bridge there.
Ooh, you really did do your homework, huh? You said the magic word. We already mentioned Morristown, New Jersey, and then you said the magic word, Aegis. Oh, now I'm definitely going to be getting some extra views. All right. So I want to look at your website. Okay. So your website, you're running for county commissioner. This is a great set here. You got some community media coming out here and a fireside chat with El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And then this right here is in your About Me. And it says Ryan currently serves as the executive director of the Maná Church El Paso, is active in outreach initiatives throughout the county, and helps coach his eldest son's baseball team. In 2023, he was nominated to serve on the City of El Paso's Ethics Review Commission and on the Bond Overview Advisory Committee, and was unanimously appointed to both by the City Council. That shows not only, the people in your community, they believe in you. They believe in you. They trust you. And they trust you despite your party alliance. And that is that is what we need more of for our candidates, libertarian candidates. We need the community to learn to just trust us. Just trust us a little bit, because they freely give it away to the Republicans and Democrats who don't even have a good solid standing on their platforms. Speaking of platforms, I did copy your platform here. No new revenue tax rate is our highest tax rate. We love that. A lot of this I noticed in your platform, you actually don't discuss the border. So you said you're with the Chamber of Commerce, and how do most people deal with the border crisis in El Paso? Are they using it in a way that furthers them economically? Like, are they creating businesses that help solve and mitigate the situation? Or what's the feel on the ground there?
There's a lot of partnerships. I think one thing that folks forget about El Paso is we're one community in 3 states. When you look at Juarez in Chihuahua, Mexico, right to our south, we're sister cities. And a lot of our folks have family on both sides. They drive back and forth, if not daily, definitely weekly. There's folks that live in Juarez that still work here in El Paso and go back and forth. When you bring in Sunland Park and Las Cruces, New Mexico to our west, we really are 3 communities. And so a lot of what we do is grounded culturally in partnership. We may be divided by political borders, but that doesn't change who we are as a people base. A lot of our non-governmental organizations and different charities are really picking up the brunt of the ground zero work. When we talk about the rescue mission of El Paso, we can talk about the Annunciation House and some of the churches that are getting involved. They're really picking up as much as they can. The city and the county do some of the, I don't want to say behind the scenes, but we're really reliant on federal dollars to be able to do that. And so there are some laws that are in place that impact our taxpayers directly. But what we see is the people of El Paso really rallying around some of these organizations with donations, not just monetary donations, but clothing donations, bedding donations, food donations, anything that they can do to put the human back in humanity during what some folks call a crisis.
Yeah.
I saw what you put on it. This was on your website, and that's exactly what you're talking about. The people working together. And that's a beautiful thing. Because you don't go as far as your dream, you go as far as your team. So,
I'm going to write that down. I'm stealing that, Mike.
Hell no, I stole that. Please feel free. I don't even know who I stole it from anymore.
So is this your first race? Is this your first race?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for stepping up, man.
No, I appreciate it. A lot of the organizations I talked to, even before jumping into the race, I would tell folks, I'm not a politician. I'm not a professional bureaucrat. I was born and raised in Michigan. I joined the Army right out of high school. I was the last for those that are familiar with the military, what we call the pre-9/11 babies. I was in basic training when September 11th happened. And so for me, we fell in love with the El Paso community. El Paso wasn't going to be our dream destination for retirement. And if I'm going to be completely honest, it wasn't even my top 10 on the list. But when my family and I moved here in 2019, we fell in love with this community and we wanted to get involved and we wanted to be around the people because the people is what makes this place special. And so when we came into, when I started getting involved more in the political scene, because if I'm going to live here and we're going to be involved, then we're going to be involved in every aspect that we can. And there was a lot behind the scenes in the political community that was really frustrating for me. Our taxes, depending on what metric you look at, we have the 3rd highest property tax rate in the nation behind Milwaukee and Detroit. We have a $51,000 median income. We're around 20,000% poverty. And we're on a desert island. We're 3 hours outside of Juarez. We're really 3 hours from anything big. Albuquerque's 5-6 hours away. Midland and Odessa are 3 hours to the east. We're out there. And so any quality of life initiatives that we want to bring to our community relies on the economic development of what we have in the community. And right now we just don't have the economic base to support some of these initiatives. And so when our county government maximized our property tax rates to the highest they could without voter approval, and gave themselves a 16% pay raise in the process, I was absolutely furious. Our county commissioners today make $133,000 a year. Our median income is $51,000, and I don't see how that makes sense. And so I met with folks. I met with former elected officials. I met with political strategists. I met with members of the community. I am an outsider. I'm a third-party candidate. While we have some ideologies that align with both Republicans and Democrats, I don't fully align with either of them. and because I stand on principle, not party. I was told if I ran as a Democrat, I would be a shoo-in, and folks don't know why I'm doing it. And it's because I'm not a Democrat, and I will not compromise my integrity or my character right out of the gate. One piece of advice that I've had to heed, as much as it frustrates me, is I told one former elected official, I'm not a politician. He's like, man, you got to stop telling folks that. If you're on a horse and you're wearing a hat in a stadium, you're a cowboy. You may not be a good one, but everybody else looks at you that way. And so now it's, how do I bring that fresh perspective, right? I don't have the acumen of politics. I've worked in government most of my adult life, but not like that. And so for me, it's, hey, I live here. We go to church here. We serve the community here. I serve on 2 city boards here. I help coach baseball teams here. I am a member of the community that's not looking out for my own best interest. I'm looking out for yours, because honestly, I got tired of making comments on Facebook about this is nonsense. This is crap. Somebody should do something about it. When in reality, I believe that God put us here so that I could be that somebody that does something about it and stop waiting for somebody else.
Like I said before, 63%, I believe, of voters say they want a third party option, and something like 3 to 5% of voters end up voting third party. So there's a disconnect, and it really seems like you can bridge part of that gap, because we need that gap bridged, and we need libertarians who stand on principle running. So again, thank you. You said you were a member of a church. I thought you were the executive director of said church. And I was going to ask what that entailed, because that seems like a great leadership position.
Yeah, it's so let me give you the history. And I really try not to mix politics and religion. And when you throw beer in the mix, it comes out for a crazy time, right? Both of you served in the U.S. military, which means that you moved probably more times than you could name off the top of your head without using your fingers and rolling your eyes back, right? With that, for folks that come from a religious background, in addition to finding a new home and finding a new grocery store and finding a school for your kids to go and finding a new gym, you also have to find a new church and a body of believers that you can surround yourself with in small group settings. Manna Church out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, is positioned right next to Fort Liberty. And year after year after year would lose hundreds, if not thousands, of churchgoers to Colorado Springs, to Joint Base Lewis McChord, to El Paso, Fort Bliss, Texas, to you name it. And one of the questions that was always asked of our senior pastor at the time, Michael Fletcher, was, is there a Manna Church here? And the answer was no. But we would help find some place for you to get connected. We truly believe it's the call of God that honestly probably just slapped Michael in the face at the moment. And at the end of one year, he got so frustrated, and he literally slapped the table and said, that's it. We're going to put an expression of Manna Church at every U.S. military installation in the world. So when our service members move from one duty station to another duty station, they don't have to find a body of believers. They know who we are. They know what we believe. They know what we're about. And Manna Church does 3 things. We only do 3 things. We love God, we love each other, and we love the world. That's it. We have a place for you. So I am within Manna Church. I am called what's called a microsite leader. When my wife and I and our 2 sons moved from North Carolina to Texas, we brought Manna Church with us. And we started out of our living room using a video service. We were going to launch in March of 2020. 2020 was a weird year for some folks. Some odd things happened. And so we ended up postponing the launch until August of 2020, when things kind of simmered just a little bit with COVID. But we started in our living room with about 12 folks. We grew to about 40, 45. I could not host in our living room, in our kitchen any longer. And we moved into a middle school. And now we're still going by video. A lot of it is the recorded sermon, it's recorded worship, but everything else we do live. We do our outreaches live. We do our small groups live. We do everything else live.
Okay.
Most folks don't know what a microsite leader is. And so it translates on LinkedIn or what other type of business platform. I did get permission to use executive director because it more closely aligns with the day-to-day. But a lot of that is budgeting. A lot of that is forecasting. A lot of that is scheduling. When you look at a chief of staff type position, some of it's leadership development, but we're all We don't like to use the V word, volunteers, because it's very task oriented. We prefer to use serve team members because there's a call and a purpose there. But none of us get paid for what we do here. And so, leading folks that give freely is different than leading folks that get paid to be there. And that's always a leadership challenge.
And the skills obviously transfer. I'm not going to call it ministrivia. That's what we called it when I was in, but the budgeting, the forecasting, the personnel movements and stuff, a lot of those skills transfer to your job as county commissioner when you make it. So
absolutely. There's an aspect of strategic thinking that I think we're missing in government, especially at the local government. Far too much of what we do is reactive and not proactive. From an Army perspective, we love short range and long range training calendars, right? Folks want to know what they have 12 months from right now. And if we can at least put something on the calendar in government that says, hey, there's something coming up in 12 months and we need to prepare for it, whether that's a budget implosion, whether that is lower revenue based on taxes, whether that is some big event that we need to prepare for. If we're being fiscally irresponsible by being in the reactionary, we're not doing any justice to our constituents. We have to look ahead and prepare for what's coming.
So speaking of looking ahead and preparing for what's coming, let's do just a scenario. Chase Oliver gets elected and he implements the Ellis Island approach. And, Ellis Island, as we discussed earlier, is on the internet now. And folks can, if they want to immigrate into America, they can do it ahead of time, get their papers in order. What is that going to look like for somewhere like El Paso that is right there on the Mexican border with another large city that is a transition city?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of what we do, and our county judge was on the local news this morning talking about this, and him and I don't agree on a lot, but I think he got this one right. Is there's absolutely a partnership with the government officials in Juarez on how we approach who comes and goes across the border. If you get all of your immigration news about El Paso from Fox News or CNN, you're getting such a perverted version of what's actually happening. Were there folks riding in on trains? Absolutely. Do we need to address that? You're right. What some folks seem to be missing, social media gets frustrating, right? Because 80% will agree with you, and then you get the 20% that tells you what a moron you are and why that's not how things work. But when I talk to folks, what I have to remind them is we don't have a border security problem. If you drive down anywhere in El Paso and you look at the border, we are probably the most secure border in Texas. We have a massive wall. We have, in some places, a river with actual water in it. There's concertina wire. We've got Border Patrol. You've got Texas State Troopers. You have National Guard at some locations. We're secure. The vast majority of folks that are waiting on the other side of the fence to come in are folks that want to be here legally. What we have is a policy problem. Do we have folks that are coming, crossing the border through illegal means? Yes. Do we have a problem with human smugglers and trafficking? Yes. Does that cause a security concern? Yes. Is it blown out of proportion in the national media? You betcha. And I think what we're going to see when Chase Oliver is elected and when he can start to move some of that criminal justice reform, we start to end the war on whatever. Because as you know, in Ground Zero, when you have a war on whatever, that creates a black market on whatever, and that whatever is coming across our border. Mm-hmm. And so when we're able to end those types of things and truly implement in a 21st century technologically advanced world, immigration process, when that becomes easier, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see our crime rates go down. You're going to see illegal crossings go down. You're going to see our revenues increase. Folks are already coming across. They're already living here. They're already working here. And I would like to see at the federal government, we make that easier. The biggest complaint that I hear is, folks come across, they get processed, and they can't do what they want to do, which is really start a life and go to work. They don't come here to live off Social Security. They don't come here to live off Medicaid. They don't come here to live on our streets. They came here to build the American dream. They want to go to work. They want to buy a house. They want their kids to get a good education and have clean drinking water and have new shoes on their feet. And the biggest thing that's preventing the vast majority of folks that we have here in El Paso County is they don't have the ability to go to work legally. So how do we get them the ability to get a work visa and start living their lives while this draconian process draws out until we can improve it?
Yeah, that's one thing I tell folks too about, people coming over to America from wherever they come from, no matter what age they are not coming empty-handed. Even if they only have the shirt on their backs, they are not coming empty-handed. They are coming to start small businesses. They are coming as teachers. They are coming as construction workers. They are coming as farmers. They are coming as small business owners, shopkeepers. They are coming with their talents. They are coming with their knowledge and experience. And I do have some questions from the audience real quick. I got Free Patriot Artist. Taxation is out of control, reaching socialism levels. How will you reduce the county tax burden on residents, especially our aging population?
Yeah, Free, that's a great question, man. And thanks for asking it. So first and foremost, right, as much as I would love to end all taxation, which I think any libertarian would, I think it's irresponsible just to cut it. I think there's a responsible way to chip away at ending the taxation burden on any resident. First and foremost, for El Paso County, if you live within the city limits of El Paso, there are 5 taxing entities. And the other ones like Horizon and Socorro have this as well, but El Paso City is the major city within El Paso County. We have the city, we have the county, we have our school districts, which really, the school district that I live in, which is a whole separate conversation, they charge about $1.25 per $100 of value in taxation. For most counties in Texas, that is their total tax rate. That's just our school district. The city is around that 45 to 50 cent mark. The county is around that 45 to 50 cent mark. We've got our University Medical Center and El Paso County Community College. So even at the county level, I can only impact directly one of the 5 taxing entities. I believe in a balanced budget. I classify myself as a classical liberal. Some folks would call that a Jefferson Democrat, or some folks very liberally will apply that to like a JFK style. I believe that we should be using in some form tax revenue to fund military, police, fire, courts, and infrastructure. How do we do that responsibly? We start by balancing the budget and making those our priority. Anything past that needs to go to the voters in a general obligation bond. Our county government, and to be really honest, our city government, are relying way too far on non-voter approved debt methods, such as certificates of obligation and tax anticipation notes, where our elected officials just sign you up to pay the bill for what they want. I refuse to do that. Some folks will call it an emergency. It's an absolute emergency. We have to have new HVAC in the county courthouse. No, that's poor leadership and fail the budget. So we're going to balance the budget at the no new revenue tax rate, and anything that we need past that can go in a general obligation bond where the voters get a vote. And then we're going to slowly start to remove things that, while great ideas and maybe even our great services, aren't necessarily critical and are best served by private industry, that we can start with a public-private partnership until the private sector fully takes it on and let the free market handle those services.
Excellent. I did get another question, and I'm going to indulge it. I'm totally going to indulge it. And we are kind of coming up at like 15 minutes left of the show. So I really feel like this is a question for all of us. So we'll start it with Ryan, then we'll go Mike, then we'll go back me, and then Ryan, you'll get your last words, and then it'll probably be time to cut. But here's the question, another question from Free Patriot Artist. Honored to be watching 3 veterans who are running for office as libertarians. What drives you as vets in the libertarian cause? So, Ryan, you go first.
Oh, wow. If there's any way for people to understand just how massively large, abusive, and intrusive the government can be in your individual life, you're going to see that working for the government, specifically as an active duty service member. If you want to talk about things like fraud, waste, and abuse when it comes to finances, right? And I'll let you two approach this from your different services. But, when we get around this time of the year, like July, we start projecting budgeting for the next year. And all of our funds go on hold for about 6 weeks. And about mid-August, we get this, hey, we have $1.5 million to spend, and we have to spend it or we don't get it next year. So what do? We go out and buy new computer monitors when we haven't used the computer monitors that are in the box from last year. We go out and buy $100,000 worth of ink pens. We go out and spend money on whatever we can spend money on, because if we don't spend it, our budget gets cut for next year. Why are we doing that instead of incentivizing saving money and turning it back in to the taxpayer, right? Our fiduciary responsibility from a governmental role is to be a steward of taxpayer dollars. And the DOD is horrible when it comes to fraud, waste, and abuse, right? From the Air Force perspective, right? You want to talk about acquisitions in the F-35? Good luck. From a Navy perspective, if you want to talk about the LCSs and the disaster of the ships that those are, that we continue to spend billions of dollars producing, good luck. When you want to talk about the impact that our foreign policy has on lives of people at home, talk to a vet. I spent 5 deployments, 2 in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in the Arabian Gulf, really all centered around the same concept of the war on terrorism. Each of those deployments had a different focus, but what we're doing is we're fighting terrorism abroad when what we should be focusing on is Department of Defense and Homeland Front. There are a lot of things at the national level that I would like to see happen. That is for, Chase Oliver as president to do. That is for Ted Brown, our Senate candidate here from Texas, the good Ted in the Texas Senate race, for them to figure out at the federal level. But from a me perspective, I've seen the impact that wartime injuries, both physical and mental, have had on our service members when they come home. I've seen the stress of the post-traumatic stress disorder or syndrome, however you want to classify it, and what that does to their daily lives. I've seen, and I don't want to get too personal, right? But when you lose friends in combat and you stay in touch with their families, and you watch their children grow up and get married and have children of their own through social media, there's always those days of remembrances. I honestly think the federal government and their stance on foreign intervention and our foreign policy causes more libertarians at home, and creates more of a drive for freedom and liberty here than at any other place in the federal government. And I'll turn it over to you to see how you guys answer.
All right, Mike, your turn. I'm going to solo you too.
I'm just tired. I mean, nobody else is doing it. That's why I decided to run. Nobody's doing what I consider to be the right thing. The only things that I remember that Congress has agreed upon, bipartisan, was it wasn't figuring out, and somebody's going to say I'm saying, militarize the border, but they didn't come up with more border troops. They didn't come up with more social workers. They didn't come up with more processors for anything. They said we can hire 87,000 more IRS agents. That's where their priorities are. Taking more and more of our money. The guys out here in Maryland, I used to defend Governor Wes Moore. He came out with 300 some odd new or expanded taxes. And that's always their answer. It doesn't matter how much they have or how much they take. Their answer is always, I want more. And it's causing us to be less and less free. And I have children that may want to own a home one day that are trying to be shut out of the American dream. We have to fix it, and nobody else is doing it. And with the jobs I've had, I'm uniquely qualified. I played in Air Force acquisitions. I've seen how dirty it is. I've played in, Pentagon budgeting. I've seen how nasty it is. And if nobody else is going to fix it and I have the ability to, then it's incumbent upon me to do it, because, our struggle isn't against flesh and blood. It's against, evil from on high. And so you got to come in and you got to try and strike it down. And I'm not saying it's a mission from God. I'm not crazy. I'm saying we are at hyperinflation. We're spending every dollar that they vote on discretionary budget is borrowed because of our massive interest on debt and our massive Social Security and our healthcare, Medicare growth. We can't afford it. We're hitting hyperinflation. and we borrow between $80,000 and $100,000 a second, and nobody is fixing it. So if you can, you step up and you try. And, you know, you're not guaranteed to win, you're guaranteed to run, but I think I should win. Most people want a third-party option. I'm capable of doing the job. Damn it, I'm going to do it. Come hell or high water, I'm going to do it. Feena?
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I'll solo myself. Hello. So what drives me as a veteran in the libertarian cause? Well, when I joined the military, I made a commitment to protect and to serve and to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. And there are a lot of infringements that I've been seeing on the Constitution of America. I've gone into detail a few times on how much I dislike taxes. I think that we've gone away from what the idea of our nation should be. The reason why I'm a libertarian, not a Republican or a Democrat, well, that's where I fit. That's where I fit. Not only that, I was in the military, so that means, guess what? I was poor. Our military is not full of rich Republicans and Democrats. It's full of poor people doing the best they can, looking for a better opportunity. And that's who I'm representing. I'm representing the people. And I think the purpose of our government is a criminal justice system and to protect our people. And those are the two things that we are failing the hardest on. You know, we talk a little bit about the healthcare system. Ryan mentioned a little bit about the healthcare system. When people talk about we want universal healthcare, and they need to look at the VA system. Now, the VA's come a long way, but everyone knows that it's definitely got more to go, and everyone knows of its history. And whenever you make an implementation of such large socialism activities like universal healthcare, universal education, there's going to be some very painful changes that happen to a society with that. So I'm running for office because I'm continuing my service. I'm not in the military anymore. I'm continuing my service, my dedication to the country. And I am done with my solo layout. Let's see, buttons. Continuing our service to the country. And thank you, Free Patriot Artists, for giving us that like nice little plug that we got to give. Yes, we are all veterans. And I'm going to go through a few more comments. The Bureau of Indian Affairs services are awful. Yes. I'm a Native American. I'm tired of not telling people that. My name is Feena, and it means cute little one. And I may not look it, but then again, the government has created this blood quantification to the point where the Native Americans do not count their cousins, and they don't count their half brothers and sisters anymore. They through acts of love. Acts of love created things where we don't count them anymore. So thanks, Carol, for bringing that one up. We've got some more comments in here. LP Texas had a donation drive that brought in more than $3,000 in necessities for the immigrants in El Paso. Volunteerism is the true heart of libertarianism. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Growing up poor, it wasn't the government that fed us. It was the churches. It was the churches. We've got another one, another Joe Hanush. We need Ryan Woodcraft in El Paso, Texas County, and Chase Oliver for president. Yes, decriminalize freedom coming in hot. We got another one. El Paso County City has been paying for their wants in the budget and needs with our credit card. Yes, the credit card of the future, the credit card of the children.
Yeah, and that's both of them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
The
city is going through the budget process right now. To their credit, they implemented a no new revenue tax rate last year. Some of our city representatives are trying to do that again this year. But what they realized, to pay for everything they want to do, they have to increase or raise about $26 million to do it at the city level. When you look at the county level, our budget is about, and the numbers get adjusted, $601 million. Around $355 million of that are unfunded state mandates, things the state tells us we must do that they do not pay us for. The remaining part of that budget is what we do because we either need to or want to. El Paso County is operating at a deficit of about $20 million in unobligated, I don't want to say unobligated funds, but obligations that we've had that is not funded in the budget. And we continue to do that. For example, El Paso is a no-kill society when it comes to animals, but we don't have enough private or government animal shelters to sustain that. So the county's looking at putting another animal shelter on the far east side to help with that. I love that idea. I think it's a great idea. Right now, financially, we can't afford it. And so how do we do that, right? Because with pets or with animals in general, right now we have two options. We can leave them cold and hungry to die on the streets, or right, we leave them, if we can't get them adopted, right, warm and fed until they're euthanized. We've decided that that's not how we want to do it here. So how do we do it without further going into debt from a county perspective?
Charity.
Right. And so for me, that goes back to, let's balance the budget at a no new revenue tax rate, because in Texas, the no new revenue tax rate doesn't mean that you don't generate new revenue. Any new construction or new builds will continue to generate revenue. That means no new revenue on the existing structures. So how do we get a balanced budget at the no new revenue tax rate and then start to transition some of these other services like animal services that we need to have to the private sector with a public partnership until it can go completely private? 100%.
All right, Ryan.
Sorry.
Last 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I'm going to give you a spotlight. You got 30 seconds. Give us your 30-second elevator speech. Get your voters. Go ahead, and then we're gonna leave them.
El Paso County is an 80% Democratic county. The Democrats have been in control of our county for the better part of the past 40 decades of modern history. Our taxes are too damn high. Our property values are overinflated, and our taxing entities are not doing their jobs in adjusting for those rise in home values and continue to take more money out of our pockets to fund what they need. Enough is enough. We have got to get back to fiscal responsibility. El Pasoans deserve elected officials with the fiduciary responsibility to steward your money, not the government's money. If you help me get elected in El Paso County, I promise I will bring that fiscal responsibility back to the local government entities. I'm a political outsider. I'm not beholden to the two-party system. I'm not part of Congressman Escobar and Judge Samaniego's camp, where anybody that they bless automatically gets elected. I'm not part of the developers or any of the large businesses that donate thousands of dollars of campaigns so that elected officials vote how they want them to vote to continue to prop up their businesses. I'm running to support you, to represent you, the taxpayers and the constituents of El Paso County. There's three ways I would love for you to get involved. One, campaigning has already taken a toll on my family, and we've got about 4.5 months left to go. So I would ask that you pray. Pray for me, pray for my family, pray for the volunteers, pray for anybody involved in this campaign, for protection, for wisdom, for guidance, for honor and integrity, because politics is a dirty business, and I refuse to go down to that level. Number two, you can give. If you can, I know Chase made the plug. I'm making the same plug. The message of liberty is free, but spreading it is not. On our website, you can donate, or you can go. You can be a social media ambassador, right? You can share our Facebook post or our X post or Instagram. You can tell your friends. You can, if you choose, I can't afford to pay you, come to El Paso and door knock with us. Come see the border that Chase was talking about. Come meet with business owners that Chase was talking about. Let's go knock door to door and talk to the people of El Paso. The message of liberty is free, but spreading it is not. And if we all put in enough sweat equity, not just here in El Paso, but across the nation, let's show the United States of America what we, the people, can do when we do it together.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you for coming on. Thank you, everyone, for watching. See you all next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.